not to say that you're going to solve all the issues in Canada that kind of prevent from getting that type of innovation over into the commercial space. But do you have any sort of diagnoses of, hey, you know what, this is the part that really doesn't function well. If we kind of figure that out, and maybe we don't know the answer right now, but if we figured it out, it would really kind of unlock a lot of at least innovation to commercialization in Canada.
I think it's got less to do with the universities. I mean that's a call that I'm sure like a Berkeley has probably made, and like Harvard has probably made, kicking themselves for. But that's not really what their mandate is, right? It's not to commercialize research. Starting to change now, right? So I think that's sort of standard across academia. And in fact, I would make the argument that some Canadian universities are a lot better at commercialization than even American ones, right? Like the University of BC is quite good at allowing their researchers to then have startups and do things, right? So I think the real root cause of translating, research into like blockbuster products, I think that really comes down to sort of the character, not the character, but the ambitions of entrepreneurs in Canada, right? So and that runs a deeper sort of cultural sort of thing in the sense that we had that thing on CBC, the 100 greatest Canadians, right? You remember that? Like who and I don't recall who the greatest Canadian was, but I think it was Terry Fox, and any day on
No,
some
Tommy
twice.
Douglas. Tommy Douglas. I just did an
Oh,
episode about it. So
yeah, and a great Canadian, and socialized medical care is awesome, except when it's not. That's a different story. But you know you know were there any entrepreneurs or business people on that list? No. But I'll bet you if you did a 100 Greatest Americans episode, that someone like, a Bill Gates might be on there, or someone. And here's the thing is when I used to travel to America and pre-clear customs at YVR, and you go and I worked at D-Wave, and they'd say, oh, where do you work? I go, I work at a company called D-Wave, and they go, what do they do? I'm like, oh, we develop quantum computing systems. They're like, oh, that sounds really advanced. I go, yeah, it is. They like, and I just say, they go like, oh, how do you spell the name of the company? I go D-Wave, and they go like, are you guys public? And so what I realized is the guy's looking for a stock tip, right? And I'm like, no, we're not public, but like he's like, okay, yeah, all right, cool. And then I come back to Canada, and it's like, and they'd be like, did you buy more than you're supposed to, right? Do you have like a carton of smokes in there or something like that? I'm like, just like, no, man, you're optimizing for different sort of things, right? And I think that in Canada, we're always suspicious, and there's a general hostility, if not, like superficial hostility, a latent hostility to anyone who's really rich, right? In Canada, we don't like really rich people, whether it's a Galen Weston or a Chip Wilson or whatever. And their personal characters aside, I'm sure some of them are assholes, and some of them are great people, right? Just really, I don't know. I don't care, right? I'm not going to be friends with them. But the fact is that there's a general sort of suspicion. If you're really rich, then you must have done something bad. In Canada, we're suspicious of outsized, commercial success, right? Sometimes it's warranted, other times it's not, right? But in America, it's very different. It's like, hey, you did it. Good for you. I want to be like you. How do I do what you did? And so as a result, when you're an entrepreneur, it's almost like scandalous to say, yeah, we'd love to be a multi-billion-dollar company and exit and like be massively successful. And then those questions like, and then what? What would you do with all of that? I'm like, cure cancer? Like I don't know, right? But it's very like but the point is that if I as an entrepreneur create value and create jobs, right, and I exit for that amount of money, that money, short of taxing, we should pay our taxes for sure, pay our fair share of taxes, right? But then after that, it's none of your business what I do with my money. I made it, right? I don't come in and tell you how to spend your money. But in Canada, it's like, and I've heard people say we should outlaw billionaires. I'm like, oh, okay, like on what? Okay, that's fine. No one should have that much money is a common thing that I hear. But what if they completely changed an entire industry, right? Why should they not reap the benefits of their hard work? And the other thing is it's really hard. It's really hard to start a company, to make a company successful. And people don't understand the personal sacrifice that goes into it. So now, obviously, like you want engines of growth and prosperity and innovation, but we don't celebrate the successes. We vilify the successes, especially the outliers, the great successes. And if we don't have great successes, we don't have examples that other people can follow. And then we end up sort of like shooting for mediocrity. We sell too early. Instead of not going for that $100 million exit and saying, no, I want $1 billion, you sell for 100 million. Because what would I do with all that money? Then people are going to hate me because they think I'm an asshole. So the whole culture kind of is rooted in not at best I can say is people don't want to celebrate success at that level, right? Hockey is a different story, this, that, the other thing. But then inevitably, someone's like, well, why are they being paid $40 million a season? Well, because so we have this weird thing in Canada where we really don't celebrate outside success in a commercial or business way, and then we wonder why we don't have all of these successes, right? Maybe it's a culture shift and especially in this whole sort of elbows up thing where, well, we do need national champions, and who's going to start these national champions, right? People who come from different countries, immigrants, which is great, right? Yeah, I'm technically an immigrant. I was born in Korea, right? I grew up here, but I'm Canadian. But like, so who else? Like, if we in Canada don't make these companies in Canada that are globally, competitive, and one of the sort of, uh, you know, resulting phenomena is that you become personally very wealthy. What's wrong with that, right? As long as you're not killing people and you're not making stretchy pants that show the undersides of women like Chip Wilson or whatever. But that's what I think is a fundamental problem, and I think it's a cultural problem, right? And it's just a shift. And I wouldn't be thinking about this had I not worked and lived in Silicon Valley for a number of years, and lived and worked in Asia Pacific, and lived and worked in other places. But we're in this sort of echo chamber, and sometimes I think the only people who are really kind of trying to diagnose it are the people who've actually started enterprises and businesses and succeeded or failed or still in the arena struggling, right? So and I think that when I look at this with the benefit of comparisons, that is a fundamental issue.